Thanks for joining me today. I'm digital artist Aaron Rutten, and in this video I'm going to demo some of the brushes that I created back in October of 2017. The first brush we'll look at is called Oily Clouds, and that's found in the Nature category. I'm going to go ahead and select a light blue, almost white color. And depending on how big you make your brush, you're going to get different kinds of clouds. If you make a really big brush, then you're going to get something that's a little bit higher up in the atmosphere, a little bit softer. Use a smaller brush. That might work better for long stringy clouds like this. Or if you use a medium brush, then you can get these nice cumulus clouds. The kind of brush stroke that I'm doing is kind of a circular scrubbing brush stroke. So if I exaggerate here, I'm doing something kind of like this, really tight circles. Because this is a liquid drip brush, it gives me this nice liquidy, oily effect, which works really well to kind of blend and add paint at the same time. And you can also add in some darker colors if you want there to be a shadow underneath your clouds. I'm going to go ahead and select white and a smaller brush, and I'll go right along those top edges just to add some highlights. You can see this brush works really well for creating clouds. The next brush that we'll take a look at is a blender, and this is the Smooth Knife Blender. I use this brush to blend color in a nice, smooth, painterly way. So I have this layer here with some bands of color. I'll go ahead and just blend with this brush, and you can see it creates these nice smooth transitions in the color. So it gives me a nice painterly organic look when I'm blending, and it complements the smooth palette knife very well. So rather than having to change the blending properties of the smooth palette knife, it's now possible to select smooth palette knife for painting, and then when you want to blend, just choose the Smooth Knife Blender. If I really want to mix up the color, I can use a really big brush and just kind of scrub it together like this. The next brush that we'll look at is a thick paint brush, so it's going to be available only in Corel Painter 2018 and later. This is called Angle Knife, and you can see it makes these nice angled strokes here. I'm going to create a new thick paint layer for my test strokes. And I'm using the Wacom Art pen, which means that I can rotate the pen to change the angle of my brush. So I can go vertical, or I can go horizontal, or I can go diagonal, and I can get lots of different results depending on the angle of my brush. So this might work well for drawing man-made objects like roofs and buildings and things like that, where you really want all of these different angles without having to change your brush size. Might also work well for putting shingles on a roof, like so. And if you want to add multiple colors to your brush stroke, you can go to the mixer. You can click on Sample Multiple Colors. I'm going to increase my sample size. I'll click right on this transition between these colors here. Now if I make some strokes, you can see that my stroke has all of those colors of paint loaded. If I rotate my brush, then I get the paint on the opposite side of the stroke. If I do a really long stroke, it will eventually just taper off and the paint will run out. And the final two brushes that we'll look at are image hose nozzles, so they're not technically brushes. We'll locate those in my image hose and particles palette drawer. And down at the bottom of the Nature category, we have Cloud Soft. Now this nozzle suggests that we use linear size P, so I'll go ahead and choose that brush. Now if I paint with this brush, I use firm pressure with a big brush, I'll get big broad clouds. If I use a smaller brush and lighter pressure, then I get kind of more little puffy areas like this and smaller clouds. And then of course I can vary my pen pressure to get thick and thin lines together in the same stroke. You can tap with it if you want to make little puffs, or you can draw big billowy clouds like this. The kind of stroke that I'm using is kind of a winding circular stroke. And the final brush that we'll look at, which I mentioned earlier, is an image hose nozzle. It's called Thick Sponge. That's in the painterly category. This nozzle suggests linear size P as well, so I'll make sure that that's selected. I'll go ahead and create a new layer and we can paint. And you can see I get this nice spongy texture. If I just tap and do dabs, you can see it's these little splatters like this. Then if I paint with it, I can build it up. If I want a smaller texture, I'll use a smaller brush. If I want a bigger texture, I'll use a bigger brush. Now when you paint with this nozzle, it's always going to be gray, and that's just the way that it's set up. One of the things you can do with it while it's that gray color is you can change the composite method of the layer that you painted on to overlay, and then it'll function just like a texture brush. So we can add a texture overlay to our artwork. If you'd prefer to add it as a paintbrush, and you don't want to use that gray color, what you can do is create a new layer for your paint, and then go to your additional color, which is this background swatch here. Make sure you click on that and it's highlighted. And you can use that to select the color of the paint that you want for this brush. In order to get the brush to paint with that color, you need to select one of these color versions of the brush. So I want to choose linear size P color. And now if I paint, I get that blue color. If I change my color to something like green, then it's green. But what's important is that I'm on my additional color right now. And if I go back to a brush that's not a brush that uses additional color, and I go to pick a color, let's say I want black, and I try to paint, I'm not getting black, I'm getting this maroon color. And that's because my additional color was selected when I picked black. What I needed to do was click back on my main color, since this brush and most other brushes use the main color, and then select black. And now I'll be getting the color that I want. So there you go, that's a demonstration of how to use the 5 brushes that I created for Corel Painter in October of 2017. You can download these brushes on my website at aaronrutten.com. Make sure to click the like button if you enjoyed this video, and if you're new to my channel, I'd love to have you subscribe. I have a lot more Corel Painter videos like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.